Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into one of the absolute most cinematic and, well, tragic corporate arcs in modern history. We're talking about the company that essentially kickstarted our modern addiction to mobile devices, a giant that completely ruled the smartphone world and then just watched it all vanish. Let's get right into it. Why BlackBerry failed.
So how exactly did the biggest smartphone company on the planet lose everything? I mean, you got to remember, before the iPhone even existed, BlackBerry was the undisputed king of the mobile world. And when I say king, I mean absolute royalty. World leaders, Fortune 500 CEOs, Hollywood A-listers, and literally millions of everyday professionals depended on these things every single day. It wasn't just a phone, right? It was a major status symbol, a total essential for getting business done. So how on earth did a company with that level of global dominance just lose it all? It's a fascinating puzzle, and honestly, the answers are incredibly revealing.
But to really understand the collapse of this empire, we first need to look at the rise of the smartphone king. Because, this wasn't some overnight success story, not at all. They were founded as Research in Motion way back in 1984, and they actually spent years just quietly developing wireless tech. But the real turning point, that hit in 1999 with the very first BlackBerry devices. Now, to be clear, these didn't look like modern phones yet. They were basically two-way pagers. But by 2002, they sparked an absolute revolution. They figured out how to securely ping real-time emails directly to your hip. Fast forward to 2006, and BlackBerry had attained massive, unparalleled global success. They literally created the smartphone category as we know it.
And man, it is so easy to forget the sheer scale of their dominance during those golden years. It wasn't just business execs who loved BlackBerry for the security and efficiency. Government leaders literally ran entire countries on them. You had celebrities constantly flaunting them in paparazzi photos, and millions of everyday folks who felt they absolutely couldn't do their jobs without one. And the secret weapon driving all that intense loyalty? That incredibly tactile physical keyboard. People were genuinely addicted to the speed and the precision of typing on those little plastic keys. They had built a moat that just seemed completely impenetrable.
But as we all know in the tech world, no moat is impenetrable forever. Which brings us to the inciting incident of our whole story. The iPhone changes everything.
This shift caught them completely off guard. BlackBerry was totally committed to its physical keyboard. They viewed it as their ultimate, untouchable asset. And because of that tunnel vision, they fundamentally underestimated the winds of change. Then, boom, 2007. Apple launches the iPhone, and shortly after, Android enters the scene, ushering in a totally new reality, the touchscreen. Apple and Android envisioned the device as this blank canvas, something that could morph into whatever app you needed at that exact moment. BlackBerry? They looked at a flat glass screen with no physical buttons and didn't see a threat. They saw a toy. And that massive disconnect right there, that is the exact spark that ignited their downfall. Of course, external competition alone rarely kills a giant without some internal weakness. So let's look at the fatal corporate mistakes behind the scenes. So what exactly went wrong internally? Well, it wasn't just one bad decision. It was a whole domino effect of missteps. First off, slow software innovation. While competitors were just rapidly iterating, BlackBerry's software stayed clunky and dated. It was built for secure emails, not for a rich multimedia experience. And because the software lagged so far behind, they totally failed to attract developers. That led straight into step two, a desolate, incredibly weak app ecosystem. While the iPhone literally had an app for everything, BlackBerry users were just left out in the cold. At the heart of all this was step three, a stubborn refusal to focus on the everyday consumer. BlackBerry kept insisting their core market was enterprise only, completely ignoring the fact that regular people who wanted games, music, social media were now the ones dictating market trends. And wrapping this all up, compounding everything, were severe internal management issues. Leadership was divided, they were painfully slow to react, and honestly, they were living in an echo chamber of their past successes. They just couldn't pivot fast enough. When you combine a revolutionary new competitor with that kind of internal paralysis, the results are going to be devastating. Let's move into the darkest chapter of this corporate tragedy, the rapid collapse.
The fallout here was breathtakingly fast. Users just abandoned those beloved keyboards in droves, swapping them out for the sleek app-filled touchscreens of iOS and Android. This triggered a massive, rapid market share loss, which, of course, instantly caused a severe financial decline that wiped out literally billions in corporate value almost overnight. BlackBerry finally woke up and realized their error, but it was way, way too late. Despite some really desperate rebranding efforts and rushing these new, half-baked touchscreen phones to market, the magic was just gone. The world had completely moved on. Ultimately, this downward spiral resulted in the definitive end of BlackBerry phones. The hardware division, the exact thing that made them a global icon, was completely shuttered.
It's a pretty stark reminder of how unforgiving the tech industry can be, right? But this actually wasn't the end of the company itself. Let's take a look at surviving a new era. This represents one of the absolute most drastic corporate pivots in modern business history. Because they didn't just tweak their phones, they completely stopped making them. Instead, they retreated to what they still did best, cybersecurity. They took their world-class encrypted security and spun it into a standalone service. Then they paired that with enterprise software to help manage and secure the massive networks of devices that big corporations use today. And, maybe most surprisingly, they leaned heavily into automotive software. Fast forward to today, and BlackBerry's code is actually running in millions of cars worldwide, handling everything from infotainment all the way to critical safety systems. They literally survived by looking at the assets they had left and completely reimagining their entire identity.
So what's the big takeaway here? Ultimately, BlackBerry didn't fail because they lacked intelligence or money or resources. As this explainer highlights, it failed because it underestimated how quickly technology and customer expectations could change. They fell in love with their own product, and they simply stopped listening to what the market actually wanted next. Adaptability isn't just some nice advantage to have, it's a fundamental requirement for survival. So looking at the tech titans dominating our world today, it really makes you wonder, right? Which one of them is making the exact same mistake right now? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.